you ever seen a massive Los Angeles Lakers victory completely overshadowed by a split-second sideline drama? Well, grab your popcorn, because a tiny bench interaction just exploded into the most viral basketball video of the year. Luka Dončić totally blanked head coach JJ Redick's high five, sparking a fiery comeback from the coach that had the entire web convinced the team's chemistry was going up in flames. Before we dive into the wild truth behind this clash, go ahead and smash that like button. Now, let us set the stage. It was February 28th, 2026, and the Purple and Gold squad rolled into San Francisco's Chase Center to battle the Golden State Warriors. Leading up to this matchup, LA was reeling from a brutal 3-game skid, taking tough hits from both Orlando and Phoenix. The Heat was absolutely cranking up on everyone from the front office to the hardwood. Keep in mind, Luka had just arrived from Dallas during a massive offseason trade, explicitly signed to become the ultimate co-star for LeBron James. Meanwhile, JJ Redick, who was kicking off his sophomore campaign, calling the shots since taking over for Darvin Ham in 2024, had the massive burden of ensuring these two elite talents actually clicked. Stumbling through 3 straight defeats was definitely not part of the championship blueprint, but this particular matchup, it was an absolute bloodbath. The Lakers cruised to a dominant 129-101 victory. Right from the jump, LA dictated the pace, completely locking down the Warriors with a suffocating defense that held veteran Stephen Curry and his crew below 40% shooting all night long. The visitors carved out a massive advantage before the break by passing beautifully and ruthlessly attacking the basket. Once the third quarter rolled around, the contest was pretty much put on ice. Dončić racked up 26 points and dished out 8 assists despite hardly breaking a sweat, perfectly displaying the elite offensive wizardry that made him such a highly coveted asset. Since the victory was clearly locked down midway through the third period, Redick made the standard blowout move, emptying his bench. He called his star point guard to the sideline, effectively ending his night. And right there is where the spark that ignited endless media frenzy actually happened. While the Slovenian star strolled toward the pine, his coach reached out for a routine knuckle tap. It is literally the most standard greeting in hoops history, a move coaches constantly use to welcome their guys off the hardwood, signaling a solid effort or just telling them to chill. But Luka either completely missed the cue or intentionally shrugged it away, breezing right past the outstretched hand without a second glance. Was it a deliberate snub or just the blank stare of a competitor totally zoned out after crushing the opposition? Fans are still arguing about it, but the coach definitely caught the slight, and he absolutely refused to let it go. Tracking his superstar down the sideline, Redick grabbed his arm and unleashed a tirade that looked incredibly heated on camera. As the player took his seat, the coach got right up in his personal space, causing the tension to skyrocket. One internet sleuth who reads lips broke down the spicy footage and claimed the conversation went exactly like this. The coach kicked things off by demanding, "What is your deal, man? You completely swatted my hand. Why are you mad?" The star guard coldly shot back, "No, I did not." That prompted his boss to snap, "Plant your rear end on that chair." Luka defensively muttered, "Excuse me? Bro." Interestingly, the lip-reading expert pointed out that this fiery banter felt more like pure competitive juice bubbling over rather than any deep-seated hatred. But once the coach spun around to head back to the scorer's table, Luka instantly jumped up, looking totally ready to keep the verbal sparring going. Enter Jared Vanderbilt to play peacemaker. The defensive specialist hopped up, completely blocking his teammates' path toward their coach, gave a loud, authoritative clap, and firmly instructed the superstar to take a seat. Vando's posture screamed absolute authority, basically broadcasting, "We are done here, sit, back down, everything is fine." The superstar backed off, the buzzer eventually sounded without any more drama, and Los Angeles secured the bag. The footage, however, was already spreading like wildfire online. A sharp-eyed spectator in the arena had recorded the whole spicy exchange, and before anyone could blink, it was trending on literally every single social app out there. A single upload from an account called NBA Courtside racked up a staggering 10,000 likes and 2 million views. Meanwhile, pages like Full Court Pass and Passion Basket NBA threw gasoline on the fire, slapping dramatic captions on the video to make it look like a massive civil war. Troll pages had a field day, hilariously suggesting that the player's big birthday dream was to hand his coach a pink slip, especially since this all went down on his 27th birthday. Reactions were wild, spanning from genuine panic over the team's chemistry to absolute meme gold. Ironically, literally nobody was discussing the massive 28-point blowout victory. Hey, if you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Anyway, this crazy video dominated the news cycle for 5 straight days, snowballing with wild fan theories as the week dragged on. By the time Los Angeles welcomed the New Orleans Pelicans on March 3rd, 2026, the incident had been completely chopped up, memed to death, and blown so far out of proportion that everyday viewers were absolutely certain the franchise was fundamentally falling apart. During his pregame presser, the head coach stepped up to the mic and tackled the rumors straight away. He looked totally chill, actually chuckling at how ridiculously huge this tiny interaction had become. After a journalist summarized the internet's panic, they hit him with the million-dollar question. Are these spicy exchanges normal, drawing on his years as a veteran player and his current sideline gig? His response was lightning fast and completely stress-free. Quote, "I honestly gave it absolutely zero thought when it happened." Unquote. He did not dodge the question, and there was no robotic corporate spin. He clarified that it barely registered in his mind during the heat of battle, and he is fully confident his superstar guard brushed it off just as easily. Because did social media just fabricate the biggest NBA drama of the year? Welcome back to the channel, Hoops fans. Hit that subscribe button right now because we've got the real truth behind the viral sideline blow-up. Coach Redick made it crystal clear this entire controversy was nothing but an internet illusion. As for Luka, Redick doesn't believe his franchise player was sweating the interaction either. The head tactician emphasized that their bond is absolutely rock solid. Notice his exact phrasing there, that was a calculated move. He avoided generic cliches about just managing to coexist, and he didn't pretend they were simply tolerating each other. He explicitly chose the word great to describe their connection, deliberately elevating the discussion to showcase a profound mutual respect. Stating plainly how much he cherishes their dynamic on camera was a powerful pivot. By establishing his stance publicly, Redick was broadcasting a loud and clear signal directly to the press, the front office, and the fans at home. What we are witnessing isn't a toxic battle of egos tearing the locker room apart. Instead, we are looking at a collaborative alliance that naturally sparks a little fire from time to time, just like any healthy team dynamic does. Redick pointed out that while you might not catch these heated outbursts at every single tip-off, they are an incredibly routine part of the grind. That specific admission pulled back the curtain perfectly. The coach openly confessed that these intense back and forths are absolutely standard operating procedure. They happen all the time. The only real difference this time around, a lucky spectator just happened to have their smartphone rolling at the exact perfect second to catch the heat. Step into any professional basketball stadium on any random evening, and you will witness guys fiercely debating defensive assignments, critical play calls, and execution errors. The general public remains totally blind to 99% of these fiery interactions. Sometimes you have to hash things out loudly on the hardwood, whether that means a coach challenging his star or 2 teammates going at it during a timeout. Redick successfully contextualized the viral clip within the intense furnace of elite athletics. It is simply the nature of the beast when high-level minds collide, whether it is staff confronting athletes or teammates pushing each other toward a championship ring. He stripped away the scandal to show its pure normalcy, completely refusing to duck the tough questions because he genuinely views this level of passion as a required element for success. Before we break down the real threat facing the roster, drop a like on this video if you love raw NBA behind-the-scenes content. We are trying to win. Those few simple words instantly deflated the manufactured media circus. Fighting for a title breeds immense stress. Stress creates explosive reactions, and then everybody moves on. That was the core of his defense. He described 2 professionals who, at the end of the day, are desperately fighting to secure a victory and desperately trying to align their strategies on the court. Highlighting their mutual desire to find common ground gave us the biggest clue of the entire media session. The head coach completely dismissed any notion of a petty power trip or toxic personality clash. He painted the picture of a pure basketball debate sparked by 2 hyper-competitive men obsessed with securing the bag. The argument almost certainly centered around real-time tactical shifts, specific defensive schemes, or questionable shot choices purely driven by the rhythm of the matchup with absolutely zero off-court drama attached. Following that, the coach dropped a massive hint about his personal leadership style that completely changes how we should view this flare-up. He openly admitted his preference for empowering his roster to take charge. He practically demands that his squad aggressively voices their opinions to the staff and demands whatever tools they feel are necessary for victory. This right here is the ultimate secret to why the viral blow-up barely fazed the coach. He has intentionally engineered an environment that rewards challenging authority and speaking your mind. Dictatorships don't exist under his watch. He craves constant feedback. So when his superstar gets visibly annoyed over being yanked from the floor, he embraces that raw emotion. That is precisely the dynamic playing out with Luka. The system worked exactly as designed, yet casual observers lost their collective minds over it. League insider Dave McMenamin backed up this narrative during a recent ESPN broadcast, confirming the boiling point was simply the result of dropping 3 consecutive matchups, not some fatal structural collapse inside the organization. McMenamin used the recent New Orleans clash to prove the point. Cameras caught the superstar and Jared Vanderbilt giggling on the sidelines, openly mocking the supposed controversy from earlier and cracking up the rest of the squad. Believe me, folks, that is simply impossible to fake if your team chemistry is actually shattered. Even basketball legend ISO Joe Johnson jumped into the public conversation to defend the situation, explaining that getting heated is just part of the job description, especially when a guy is absolutely torching the defense. And suddenly, here's the whistle blow for a sub. When you enter that zone where the hoop looks like an ocean and nobody can guard you, getting benched triggers an instant, gut-wrenching rage. That isn't hatred for the staff. That is simply the pure, undeniable hunger to stay on the floor and dominate. Now, let's talk about the real danger looming over Los Angeles. While the timeline was obsessing over a meaningless argument, a genuinely terrifying storyline has been quietly developing throughout the entire 2025-26 campaign. Luka's absolute inability to stop racking up technical fouls. This brings us to the massive suspension threat we teased earlier. And no, this isn't about the Los Angeles front office actively choosing to punish their franchise cornerstone. This is about the league's ironclad bylaws, ripping the decision out of their hands and forcing him to sit out, regardless of how devastating it might be for the roster. The mandate is incredibly clear. According to the association's guidelines, the moment an athlete hits 16 technicals before the playoffs, they are instantly slapped with a mandatory 1-game ban alongside a $5,000 penalty. To make matters worse, every 2 subsequent infractions carry an identical single-game punishment. We aren't talking about a subjective ruling from the referees or league officials. Adam Silver doesn't get to review this on an individual basis. The math is absolute, hit the magic number, and you grab some pine. As of March 6th, 2026, the superstar guard is sitting dangerously at 15 technicals. Before we wrap up, make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a breaking update on this massive suspension watch. Technical fouls, 15 of them. Just one mistake away from an automatic 1-game suspension. If you want to know how Luka reached this boiling point, it really exposes a much deeper issue. Smash that like button as we dive in. His 14th tech dropped during Los Angeles' 110-101 victory against the New Orleans Pelicans on March 3rd. The whistle blew because the Slovenian superstar gave the refs an earful for ignoring a lane violation by DeAndre Jordan at the charity stripe. It was not some crazy, hostile meltdown. Honestly, it was just the usual Luka Magic screaming at the officials with some extremely colorful vocabulary because he felt they blew the call entirely. Interestingly, the purple and gold racked up 3 total technicals that night, hinting at a massive wave of team-wide anger directed at the officials. Then, boom, tech number 15 hit merely 2 days later on March 5th in a heartbreaking 120-113 loss against the Denver Nuggets. This specific penalty sparked when the point guard lost his mind over a missed foul by Bruce Brown. Official Dedrick Taylor did not hesitate to tee him up the second the curse words started flying toward the referee crew. The franchise player was absolutely livid, furious at the swallowed whistle, outraged by the penalty, and completely sick over the corner he had backed himself into. Now, with plenty of regular season matchups left on the calendar, a single lapse in judgment could force him to sit out in street clothes while watching his squad battle without him. But hey, this isn't his first rodeo. On 2 previous occasions, he hit that dreaded 16 tech limit. Miraculously, both times, the association front office wiped away the final penalty after a video review, letting him dodge the mandatory ban by the skin of his teeth. Sure, that track record gives the Laker Nation a tiny bit of hope, but let's be real, there are absolutely zero guarantees. Adam Silver's office doesn't owe him a third free pass, especially since his toxic habit of barking at officials hasn't gotten any better. If we are being completely honest, his constant referee complaining has skyrocketed. Since touching down in Hollywood, the lights are blinding, the championship or bust pressure is real, and the brutal fallout from missing even one crucial night is catastrophic. Don't forget to subscribe if you love deep dive NBA drama, because this fiery temper has haunted him since his days in Dallas. He literally debates the officials after almost every single call that doesn't swing in his favor. It has even escalated into wild shoving matches with rivals, like that crazy post-game clash against Sacramento Kings guard Dennis Schroeder back in December 2025, ending in a massive 3-game ban for Schroeder. Head coach JJ Redick refused to speak on that specific beef back then, labeling it an NBA headquarters issue, but this ongoing explosive trend is just too loud to sweep under the rug. The superstar guard plays with a double-edged sword. That fiery passion completely fuels his absolute magic on the hardwood. Yet, it keeps him dangerously close to a devastating suspension right when the roster needs him most. Currently, the Lakers are clinging to a record of 37-24, locked into the 6th seed out west. Every single night is a dogfight. Losing him for just one matchup during this brutal gauntlet of Western Conference heavyweights could easily destroy their chances of securing home court advantage, throwing them straight into the unpredictable play-in tournament. The math is brutally obvious and the stakes are sky high. But the real powder keg here is exactly when these emotional meltdowns happen. We aren't talking about meaningless garbage time during massive blowout victories. Nope. They happen during the most intense, nail-biting stretches whenever he feels totally disrespected by the guys in stripes. These are the peak adrenaline moments where his urge to complain entirely overrides his logic and situational awareness. That recent Nuggets disaster? A flawless example. A painfully close 7-point loss to a massive rival in the West. That is precisely the type of clash that decides final playoff brackets. Snagging his 15th foul during that dogfight was a huge unforced error. If number 16 drops in another war like that, the resulting ban could literally cost Los Angeles a victory they cannot afford to lose. The entire coaching staff gets it, the general manager knows it, and you better believe the star guard realizes it too. But the million-dollar question remains, is self-awareness enough to rewrite the emotional code that has been baked into his actual's basketball DNA since his teenage prodigy days overseas? Meanwhile, the franchise is firmly backing JJ Redick. Drop a comment below if you agree. This piece of the puzzle is actually the one thing those wild internet rumors nailed. The Lakers brass is completely standing shoulder to shoulder with Coach Redick, not as an attack on their franchise player, but strictly endorsing how the head coach is managing this volatile mess. Redick's strategy has been brutally honest, very public, and completely unapologetic. His message? Luka must lock down his temper. Immediately, before the league office forces him to sit. Right before tip-off against Denver on March 5th, JJ stepped up to the microphone and tackled the foul drama head-on, showing the exact same ruthless precision he had as a sharpshooter. He bluntly told the press corp that his star is well aware of the danger zone and is actively trying to zip his lips. That single quote actually achieved two major goals at the same time. First off, it broadcasted to the fans and reporters that the locker room leaders weren't blind to the crisis and had already held a closed-door intervention with their point guard. Secondly, and this is huge, it shifted all the accountability straight onto the superstar's shoulders. Redick absolutely refused to throw the refs under the bus for having a quick whistle every single whistle. What is up, Hoops fans? Welcome back. Coach Jay Redick is absolutely not calling the refereeing unfair. He simply noted that his star player knows the rules and is putting in the effort. The writing is on the wall, folks. If our franchise guy grabs that 16th technical penalty, it is entirely his own fault. And guess what? The Los Angeles executives are totally backing their head coach on this. Insiders tell us that the new coaching philosophy is all about extreme accountability. Before we dive deeper, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily updates. Now, despite that heated sideline argument and the looming suspension threat, it has not ruined their rhythm at all. The proof is right there on the scoreboard. Right after crushing Golden State, the purple and gold took down New Orleans 110-101. Then they absolutely bulldozed Sacramento 128-104, with our newly acquired playmaker dropping 28 points and dishing out 9 assists. The squad is thriving. Their main guy is getting buckets. Management is treating that viral bench flare-up like a completely normal day at the office. It was simply the man in charge, demanding greatness from his best asset, and the superstar answering the bell by dominating on the hardwood. Honestly, you cannot underestimate how massive this front office support really is, especially when you look at how divas usually run the show across the modern league. Let us be real. We are talking about a top-tier generational talent here. He is a 5-time All-Star, a guy constantly in the most valuable player conversation, and the exact missing piece this front office blew up their roster to secure. On almost any other team, a guy with that much clout could easily pull strings behind the scenes, ignore instructions, or potentially get the guy holding the clipboard fired. We have watched this exact script play out so many times. Just look at James Harden orchestrating his way out of multiple cities, or Jimmy Butler blowing up locker rooms in Minnesota and later forcing his exit from Miami. Plenty of heavy hitters have simply decided the man in the suit was the issue and pulled the plug. But the Lakers? They are shutting that diva behavior down immediately by doubling down on the coach's absolute authority and backing his stance on those penalty calls. Management is laying down the law. The guy with the clipboard creates the rules, and the roster, from the bench warmers right up to the maximum contract. Megastar has to fall in line. This is not some passive-aggressive hint. It is a massive statement of intent. And honestly, props to the star guard for swallowing his pride. He hopped on the microphone and confirmed the beef with his boss is completely squashed. Behind closed doors, both guys have brushed off the screaming match as just a normal burst of competitive fire. Seriously, guys, if you love this kind of insider scoop, drop a subscription to the channel right now. Sure, the on-court magic has been flawless since that spicy moment, but putting up numbers was never the concern here. The real panic is about keeping a cool head. Our guy can drop 30 points effortlessly, but he will sink this franchise if he triggers that 16th technical penalty during a do-or-die playoff matchup right in the middle of a brutal stretch where they desperately need him on the floor. Los Angeles put their foot down. They ordered their marquee signing to chill out. They echoed that exact same sentiment to the reporters. Now it is entirely up to the superstar to show he can stay composed. But let us zoom out and look at the grand scheme of things. Look past the trending Twitter videos and the penalty countdown, and a fascinating narrative unfolds. This is a franchise trying to pull off one of the trickiest chemistry experiments we have seen in decades. For his first 6 seasons in Texas, this dude was the absolute center of the universe. Every single play started and ended with him. Every offensive scheme was his to dictate, his to launch, and ultimately his shoulder to carry the wins and losses. Dallas designed their entire playbook around letting him hold the rock, break down defenders in a split second, and pull off magic tricks out of thin air. That is just who he was. But out here in Hollywood, it is a whole new ballgame. King James is still running the show on this squad. The fresh playbook introduced by the coaching staff is all about speed, wide open floors, and moving the rock, a scheme that demands quick passes and relies on all 5 guys touching the leather. The newcomer style, however, is famous for heavy isolation play and pounding the ball for an eternity. These two approaches are not necessarily doomed to fail together, but blending them takes massive sacrifices from everyone involved. It demands time. It demands the kind of deep bond built through long months of battling, celebrating victories, and suffering brutal defeats as a unit. That explosive bench argument? Just a natural side effect of trying to mash 2 different basketball worlds together. A brief spark of the growing pains that always come when you blow up a roster to chase a championship, and man, the internet had an absolute meltdown over it online. Scrolling through timelines, you had people genuinely panicking about the franchise's future, dropping comments that the star and the coach despise each other. swearing that a trade request is imminent if the current boss stays in charge. Meanwhile, the more rational fans pointed out that the screaming match happened early in the third period, and by the final buzzer, the point guard and the coach were literally joking around like nothing happened. This massive split in the fan base perfectly captures how wildly we all overreact to hoops drama. One half sees a tiny spark and assumes the entire arena is burning down to the ground, while the hardcore fans know that a little friction is exactly what builds a championship contender. Oh, and Jared Vanderbilt's role here seriously needs a shout out before we wrap up. When the star player jumped up to keep barking at the bench, it was, guess who stepped up to play peacemaker? It was not the coaching staff, the suits in the front office, or even LeBron James. In a wild twist, it was Jared Vanderbilt, a hardworking role player and the ultimate glue guy who usually flies completely under the social media radar. This unsung hero literally shoved himself directly between his superstar teammate and his head coach, delivered a firm clap, and ordered Luka Dončić to take a seat. Honestly, that kind of bold move shows you exactly who holds the real respect behind closed doors, daring to break up a heated standoff involving the two absolute biggest names in the entire franchise. It is a massive testament to the gritty, accountable culture JJ Redick has built from the ground up. Plus, seeing Vando and Luka cracking up on the sidelines during the New Orleans game, clearly roasting each other over the whole dramatic showdown while the rest of the squad died laughing, proves the vibes are absolutely immaculate right now. Spoiler alert, there is zero locker room drama, guys. No secret alliances or broken trust. They had a quick flare-up and immediately brushed it off. Before we dive deeper into the real crisis, if you love Lakers updates, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, let us look at the bigger picture of NBA history when stars and coaches clash, because honestly, looking at the past proves this whole narrative is completely overblown by the media. Let us be real, massive blowups are practically a rite of passage for legendary coaches and elite superstars throughout basketball history. Just remember Phil Jackson's screaming matches with Kobe and Shaq back in the day, those exact fiery dynamics forged multiple championship rings. Coach Popovich notoriously chewed out legends like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and literally anybody else who ever laced up for San Antonio. And guess what? It only made their bond stronger. The pure, unfiltered intensity of professional hoops, combined with the insane stakes, pumping adrenaline, and the brutal grind of an 82-game schedule, makes the occasional meltdown 100% inevitable. So, the real debate is not why these spicy arguments happen in the first place. What actually matters is whether the squad can squash the beef and keep pushing toward a ring. Looking at Luka and Redick, all the signs point to them being totally cool again. Unfortunately, the modern 24/7 news machine, fueled by thirsty algorithms, desperate for clicks, has essentially birthed an ecosystem where a measly 10-second sideline argument gets wildly more coverage than the actual basketball game being played. Seriously, Los Angeles absolutely obliterating Golden State by 28 points, a massive victory that ended their slump and proved they are legitimate title contenders, was completely ignored just to talk about an awkward high five on the bench. This ridiculous priority shift is a huge red flag about how fans digest sports content in 2026, rather than exposing any actual cracks inside the Lakers organization. But hey, before we talk about the one massive problem that is still haunting this team, please drop a like on the video. Now, the real nightmare, those technical fouls. They are still looming over everything and highly destructive. Luka constantly whining to the referees is just baked right into his DNA. You cannot simply flip a switch and turn off that fiery attitude just because his coach tells him to chill out or the higher-ups email him a warning about staying professional. That relentless edge is the exact same trait that turns him into an unstoppable, once-in-a-lifetime superstar. So, the ultimate tightrope walk for LA is keeping his killer instinct alive while completely shutting down those reckless tantrums that drag the whole squad down. Sitting at a terrifying 15 technical fouls with several weeks left on the calendar, they have absolutely zero wiggle room left. To be fair, the franchise has navigated this absolute minefield perfectly, probably better than any other front office could have. They stood firmly behind their coach without throwing their star player under the bus. They openly called out the penalty issue without making Luka look bad in front of the cameras. They just let the scoreboard do the talking, securing massive blowouts against the Warriors, Pelicans, and Kings, all while acknowledging that they still have a mountain to climb. That little bench spat, just a bump in the road, definitely not a disaster. But that penalty counter, that is a totally different beast. It is practically a time bomb that the coach, the executives, and honestly, even Luka himself cannot seem to defuse. At this point, only the guys with the whistles and his own self-control will decide if disaster strikes. So for everyone asking, no, the team did not bench Luka for the drama, but the league office absolutely might. And if Adam Silver drops the hammer, the Lakers organization can at least say they tried. Absolutely every trick in the book to stop it. They had the closed-door meetings. They publicly threw their weight behind the coach. They made their stance loud and clear for the whole basketball world to see. Now, the million-dollar question is whether this superstar can finally tap into the mental discipline he always seems to lack right when the stakes are highest. Nobody on earth is doubting his unbelievable skills on the hardwood. His maturity, though, that is highly debatable. Sitting dangerously on 15 techs with the postseason knocking at the door, whether he keeps his cool or loses his mind will literally decide if Los Angeles raises a banner this year. Leave a comment below with your predictions, and I will see you in the next one.